Have you ever stumbled across a game that triggers a wave of nostalgic memories you didn't even realize that you had repressed? This happened to me recently when my wife and I took a trip down to Portland, and while browsing a local retro game store, I stumbled upon this absolute gem of a game for just under $10. As a kid, I used to build a fort under my bunk bed with my best friend from across the street, and we'd stay up for hours racing head to head, but I never remember fully beating the story mode, so as soon as I got home from my trip, I knew I had to pop this one in and see if it was really as good as I remembered. This is Retro Revisit Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. Released all the way back in 1999, this game brought the thrilling pod race sequence from the movie to life. Developed by LucasArts and published by LucasArts and Nintendo, this title is part of the massive multimedia push surrounding the release of Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. It was a huge commercial success for its time, holding the Guinness World Record as the best-selling sci-fi racing game, with worldwide sales hitting 3.12 million units, followed by series like Wipeout and F-Zero. But does it still hold up in the modern day? Let's dive in. For this review, I'll be focusing exclusively on the N64 version of Episode 1 Racer. While I'm aware that this game also has a PC and Switch version, I've chosen to stick with the original format for this analysis. And additionally, I approached this game with no prior knowledge from external reviews or outside influences, basing my thoughts solely on my personal experience alone. Episode 1 Racer doesn't focus on much of a storyline. Instead, it's rooted in expanding on the pod racing scene from The Phantom Menace. You take on the role of Anakin Skywalker or several other racers, each with their own unique pod, competing in high-stake tournaments across the galaxy on familiar planets and locations from the movie, such as Tatooine, Ondo Prime, and more. The core gameplay is where Racer truly shines. Players compete in 4 different tournaments with 25 tracks spread over 8 unique worlds, upgrading their pod racers by purchasing parts from Watto's shop using earnings won from the races. Before going into each race, you even can choose how you adjust the winnings. I always lean towards the winner takes all because it gives you way more credits to buy parts that could get pretty spendy in the shop, but are essential in order to progress through the later races. Jumping back in after so many years, the controllers were impressively precise for the N64, allowing players to balance speed and handling as they zip through tracks at blistering speeds. You truly feel like you're going over 600 miles per hour, and that's not even the limit. The boost mechanic adds an extra layer of strategy. You charge the throttle in the bottom right corner, and once full, you can activate a burst of speed. However, using it too often risks overheating your engines, which can cause them to blow and set you back. Do you really risk pushing your pod racer to its limits for a chance at victory, or play it safe? This delicate balancing act keeps every race intense and engaging. To be honest, I sometimes struggled with controlling my speed, often smacking into walls or slamming into obstacles, blowing myself up in the process. This was far from ideal, especially in the later races, where a single mistake can drop you far behind, and crawling your way back up to first place becomes incredibly difficult, if not impossible. For a late 90s game, the visuals are very impressive. The environments are varied and capture the Star Wars aesthetic beautifully. From the dusty canyons of Tatooine to icy worlds and industrial planets, the pod racers themselves are even detailed, with unique designs that make each one feel distinct. The only thing that I feel fell short in this game was the sound department. The roar of the engines and the clanging of parts during collisions showcase the N64's capabilities at their best. Even the voice clips, though slightly repetitive, contribute to the game's charm. However, what is noticeably absent is the iconic Star Wars soundtrack. Integrating the legendary music fans associate with the franchise would have elevated the immersion of the pod racing experience to a whole new level. Notably, during the last lap of each race, a song begins to play to heighten the intensity, which is a great touch, but the first 2 laps lack music entirely, leaving only the sounds of pod racers and their banter. While the minimalist approach has its appeal, a more robust soundtrack throughout the race would have elevated the overall experience. As I advanced through each tournament, my appreciation for the game's diverse track designs grew significantly. While there were only 8 planets to race on, each revisit in a different tournament felt fresh and exciting. The map layouts, obstacles, and environments would shift dramatically, making each race feel like a brand new challenge. The tracks strike a great balance between wide open stretches and tight technical sections, with standouts like the Boonta Eve Classic impressing through sheer scale and complexity. The variety is impressive, though the difficulty ramps up in the later courses, which could prove frustrating for the more casual players. Initially, the game's going to feel more like a time trial, as you're likely to be dominating every race. Focus on beating your own lap times and frequently hearing the announcer declare, "It's a new lap record!" But as soon as you approach the later tournaments, the experience is going to evolve into a much more intense head-to-head competition that keeps you on edge. For the sake of nostalgia and staying true to the canon story, I attempted to complete the entire playthrough as Anakin. But there was one race in particular that I just couldn't beat with the pod configuration that I had built. Thankfully though, with over 20 pod racers to choose from, and no shortage of variety, with fan favorites like Anakin Skywalker to obscure characters like Assango and Sebulba, there's a racer for everyone. Hell, they even have Elon Musk in the game. though don't be expecting to race in a Tesla pod anytime soon. And what is nice is that each pod racer has unique stats, encouraging experimentation to find the perfect match for your playstyle, and after testing 3 to 4 characters, I found the perfect combo to get past the race. With the wealth of tracks, racers, and upgrades to unlock, Episode 1 Racer offers plenty of replay value. The single player campaign is lengthy, and improving on your times and mastering the tracks adds to the longevity. Racer also includes a 2-player split screen mode, which was a blast back in the day. While the frame rate may take a bit of a hit, the competitive fun of battling a friend on these tracks was well worth it, and the couch co-op multiplayer holds up. So after playing through the entire game, does Star Wars Episode 1 Racer stand the test of time? Absolutely. While some aspects may show their age, the core gameplay remains a blast. Whether you're a diehard Star Wars fan or just love fast-paced racers, this is one retro title worth revisiting. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Retro Revisit. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more nostalgic game reviews. And if there's a game you'd like to see me play and review, drop your suggestions in the comments below. Until next time, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.